and I'm live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Hopefully I won't drop the ball or either of the balls. But anywho, as I say, it's your boy MKSA back in another video, and welcome to the third and penultimate part of World Football Day Belated. As I say, part 3. Hope you enjoy it, and here are some of my ideas and thoughts on football, and maybe how to get more people into football, and really asking questions as well to football fans around the world. Hopefully as many football fans from around the world as possible check out these videos. Hopefully it won't be too cringe-worthy, but I'll do my best. So yeah, these are pointers number 21 to 30. Drinking another glass of Fanta. I haven't had any tea today, just had Fanta. Pepsi and Fanta, that's what I'm trying today. Anyway, the diet of a wannabe footballer, or maybe not. I'm too old anyway. Yeah, this is why I'm fat as well. Anyway, on to the list. So here goes. So number 21, as the saying goes, 21 again. I pretty much always say that one. Back about 20 years ago, unfortunately it's been 20 long years, Italy won the World Cup in 2006. I thought I'd have to get that in. Our fourth World Cup. And obviously I was hoping we'd win one since then. But at that time I had a strange dream about, I don't know if maybe it was a bit after that, when I sort of had this dream where I thought, what if Italy won the 2010 and 2014 World Cups? Might have been even when it was 2010 rather. Where I thought, what if Italy could win the 2000, as an Italian fan, obviously, what if Italy could, hence the scarf and flag, I think you can see my other videos on that, and my Italian top, which I've worn in the past. Yeah, what if Italy could win, what if Italy could have won those, one of the 2010 and 2014 World Cups, which was hosted in Brazil. I thought that would be quite fitting if we won 3 in a row and overtook Brazil in their own backyard, because I don't know, I thought that would be a bit of a cheeky one. Sorry to any Brazilians out there. Brazilians watch these videos, hopefully it won't be too mad if it was a bit harsh, but it would have been a bit of a harsh thing, but I think it would have been kind of interesting. It would have been rather fitting to overtake Brazil in their own backyard, and I'd love for Brazil to one day win 3 World Cups in a row. I did want that to happen. After we sort of messed up and failed in 2010 and 2014 to get past the first rounds, I was hoping in 2018 be like positive. I think of the number 18 as being like positive, but maybe not. Although technically it's 2018, but yeah, it wasn't to be. So since 2000 and 2006, in 20 years, Italian football has really gone downhill, unfortunately. Although we did win the Euros, but if Italy lost every friendly and every Euros, even every Olympics, well, I'd like us to get into the Olympics and maybe into Euros and even Confederations Cups and things like that, just because I'd want to play the youth to give them as many practicing opportunities as possible. But I think the youth should be played in all the friendlies, in the Olympics and even in the Euros and things like Federations Cups and things like that, so they can get to practice. As I say, it's a bit of a dilemma. I kind of want to see more people, including women and girls, getting into football, and more Asians into football, minorities into football, into learning about football, playing it, coaching it, managing it, and learning as much as they can to become coaches and managers, become the best possible coaches and managers they can be, and that kind of thing. But then again, I kind of want to focus more on Italian football, as well as Celtic, who play in green, as it happens. But moving on, number 22, I'd love to see how Italy could get back to the top. But talking about football more generally, I thought for World Football Day, again, I'd love to know how to get more people into football, even more people, to keep it world's number one sport. To me, it's by far the best sport. I'll say, when it comes to Italy, I only support them in the football, and I don't really care if Italy only wins football and nothing else, and like loses every other sport or whatever, because I only care about Italy, I'll say, in the football. I'd love to see, I'll say, Italian football and Celtic get, and maybe LCFC and Birmingham, as I said before, in parts 1 and 2, I'm sure, and I've said in the past, I'd love to see them get involved in working with FIFA and UEFA, and in Leicester's case, maybe in LCFC's case, or in Birmingham's case, or both of their case, whatever the case is, to work with the FA even in England to obviously to get more minorities into football and that kind of special occasions. And so maybe even like how to get more black people into management and coaching and management roles. But yeah, I'd love to see Italian football and Celtic and Italy improving relations with black and Asian people and people from different backgrounds through football and that kind of thing. And hopefully Italian football can improve. But yeah, I'd love to know from different football fans like views about how to get more people into football. I guess probably you might argue people are either into football or not, and it's already it's a very popular sport. I think like it gives you something to talk about, something to focus on and enjoy, that kind of thing. But I can understand some people probably don't like it for various reasons, of course. But moving on, point number 23, I'd say I'd love to see as much funding as possible for Italian football and Celtic, and I'd love for them to work with FIFA and UEFA. I do find the rules go over my head because I'm a bit of a simpleton, as you can probably tell. I don't know if you can tell or not, but hopefully not too cringeworthy, I say. But I would love for Italian football and Celtic to get all possible legal funding and make sure they work with FIFA and UEFA, mainly to make sure they don't fall foul even of any infringements like FFP rules, financial fair play rules, or any other rules like that. So to basically to work with FIFA and UEFA and say what are, and maybe even the international society, international organisations, or whatever to say, how do we make sure we stay within the rules, within the laws and the rules and that kind of thing, or whatever, the rules/laws, or whatever, and at the same time get as much funding as possible for Italian clubs and Celtic respectively. And maybe Italian football and Celtic working together and sharing ideas on how to acquire funding. But I stress that I hope they'll do it always legally, above board, as they say. So to make sure they don't fall foul of those rules and make sure they learn. Like I think it's so bad seeing from an Italian football fans' point of view, it's like same mistakes seem to be made quite a lot. So I'm like, why don't they learn from those mistakes? It's like they're running into a wall and they keep running into it. And it's like with Juventus, suppose they did stuff with getting favourable referees, unfortunately, but it backfired, I guess, because Juventus have gone downhill since then. So I'm sure they would have been better off if they didn't do that. I talked before about how I'd love for one of my biggest ideas is I'd love to discourage it as a peacemonger. I feel like I'd love to discourage investing into the weapons trade and wars and things like that, and instead encourage that to invest it into football, more specifically Italian football and Celtic. But again, I'd love for them to work with FIFA and UEFA and maybe say like in return for doing football for good, which Celtic has already got off, and maybe many Italian teams are. In return for doing that, there could be more rights for investment. So FIFA and UEFA could invest into and sponsor Italian football and Celtic themselves, but they could also say, we're going to loosen the rules for you. Somehow, I don't want to. Again, I don't want to encourage any law breaking or any corruption. So I hope they'll do everything legally. But I suppose if FIFA and UEFA, FIFA and stroke or UEFA make those rules, I guess they can always change them as they like. Maybe, I don't know, probably not. But maybe I'll say my neurodivergent ideas and I love for Italian football and Celtic. I'm not sure what neurodivergent people could do for Italian football and Celtic, and maybe what they could say is in return for promoting the beautiful game around the world and promoting peace and building bridge building and that kind of thing, basically through football, could we have more access to funding and that kind of thing, access to capital, and I'd love for all possible investors and companies to invest in Italian teams and Celtic. With Italian teams, I'd love for it to be that they invest in ones that begin with the same letter or letters, like companies that begin with A to invest in AC Milan, for instance, companies that begin with R to invest in Roma, and so on and so forth. I to invest in Inter Milan, like even IMF and others perhaps. And also the World Health Organization, like talking about football for great health, diets and things like that as well. And those organisations can improve their image and reputation by investing more in football, and talking about football for fitness and peace with football. I think bridge building, and hopefully football can do it. Also love to have like fundraisers to more fundraisers to. I often try and plan it, but I'm an ideas person. I do struggle to put it into practice. I love to have football fundraisers. I'd love to be part of them. I know there's soccer and things like that, but I'd love to be part of some to fundraise for good causes, like to raise awareness of good causes and to record them and like, find ways to use them to fundraise, which could help to build more pitches in developing nations. I wrote that word right. And also do lots of good generally, like support STEM education for developing nations and that kind of thing. I'm sure there's something else I'm going to say, but it's probably the best I move on. But yeah, so football for the greater good, football to be used to fundraise and look at how to improve the image of football and show what football can be used for to build bridges and that kind of thing. And as I say, I'd love for Italian football and Celtic to look at all the legal ways they could acquire investment. And again, instead of investing in wars and weapons trade, I'd love for companies to invest in Italian football and Celtic. I'll probably kick myself there because I completely forgot something I was going to say. But moving on, point number 24. As I say, I have a bit of a dilemma because for World Football Day, a bit, as I say, belated because it was on a Monday. Technically, it's Sunday now. Sunday morning, but Saturday. I said Sunday. It's Saturday morning. Sorry. Hopefully, the day PSG beats Arsenal. I hope. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The dilemma is I'd love to get people around the world into football, but I suppose if more people are into football, it is more of a competition for Italy and maybe Celtic as well. Oh, I was going to say also in point number 23, even to a lesser extent, but even Leicester and Birmingham, as I said before, to get investment, but not as important to me as Tampa and Celtic. I'd say before just because they're diverse cities and everything. And then for South Africa, I probably mentioned that South Africa to host pro-diversity events because they went through apartheid, and maybe they could host sports events, especially in football, but also in sports generally, including football, obviously, for diverse cities and places and areas. It's a bit of a dilemma. Like I'd say like football for good, and having more pitches, like stadiums, academies, and that kind of thing in developing nations in part of South Africa, Asia, and Latin America, places like that, and around the world. But I especially love for Italians to get into football, especially younger ones, as much as possible. I'd love to fundraise for Italy to have as many youth academies as possible. But I want to talk more about that in June. The video's already gone long enough. I'd like to talk about that, but and I'd love to talk about that today or tonight for football day. But I think I'll leave that for June. But moving on to 25. I also wonder if FIFA and UEFA, talking about FIFA and UEFA, I wonder if they could give more funding to countries like republics, for instance, if they were able to do that. And again, I'd love for South Africa to host as many pro-diversity events as possible, and diverse places to have more access, diverser cities and places, and football clubs that promote diversity to have more access to funding, investment, sponsorship, and that kind of thing. Sponsorship deals, investment deals, and that kind of thing, perhaps. And to host more events and get to practice with each other, that kind of thing. Again, it's a bit of a dilemma because the more people who practice from overseas, from outside of Italy, the more competition Italy has, but I want Italy to become the top footballing nation. So that would be more of a priority to practice. But again, Italy could work with FIFA and UEFA, especially FIFA, and say to promote the world, to promote the world's best game, to promote football in around and across Africa and Asia, especially, and Latin America. Would you give us more access to funding? Number 26. I think it'd be cool if, again, Italy, especially Italy and Celtic, to have football through diplomacy through football. So using football as a diplomatic football. But improving relation between Italians and Black and Asian and other people, improving relations with the rest of the world through football, and hopefully Italians will have more opportunities to practice with people from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and elsewhere football tournaments, which Italians can have overseas, including school children and that kind of thing. And hopefully that will help Italians in the future, even more younger people get to practice with people from overseas as well as each other. So hopefully it will benefit Italian football even more. Using a potential challenge again to turn around with my neurodivergent friends, I guess. I'd love to see what neurodivergent people can contribute to football as well. Another thing I was thinking about with, as I could have said, some point number 24, point number 25, but I was thinking initially I was going to talk about a partnership deal I'd love to see between Italy and Asia through football, just like I said about with Celtic last week, as I mentioned before. But in part 1 or 2, I think it was in part 1. But anyway, I would love for, I can't remember if I mentioned this point or not, but I'd love for Italy, for instance, to say we will help China and India. We'll vote for them to host the World Cup. In return, we wish for Chinese and Indian companies to invest in Italian football, sponsor Italian football teams, because China and India are two of the most populated countries in the world, and I think it'd be interesting if they host a joint World Cup, just like South Korea and Japan did in 2002. Sadly, Brazil won that one, but hopefully it'll be easily if China and India host it within the rules of the game. Encourage any law breaking or corruption, but hopefully they can improve and develop great players, which I'd love to see them do. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if Italy said, I don't know if they can do that though, by the rules, I suppose, again, as long as they do it within the rules, but maybe say to FIFA, we'll support African and Asian nations or Latin American nations or whatever hosting football events. I was thinking like Asian nations especially, because of the partnership I hope to have between Italian football and Celtic. Between Italian football and Asia, to say we'll vote for you to have the World Cup, to host the World Cup, as long as you invest in our football teams, and help us to practice with you and have more practicing opportunities, especially for younger Italians to improve. Number 27. I talked before about, I suppose, about Italy having its own award ceremonies for those who invest in and sponsor and generally benefit Italian football. And again, talking about diversity as well, a reward I think for promoting diversity in a football club, tackling racism could be, as I say, more access to investments, sponsorship deals, things like that. So if a club says we condemn racism and we want to be more inclusive, and they have programs to help people from diverse backgrounds to get into football, and especially more diverse cities and places, diversity. I think they should get more access to investments and sponsorship, and FIFA should support them to do that, I think. So, let's say places like Leicester and Birmingham, and maybe parts of London as well. Especially if the clubs themselves condemn racism. I suppose it's hard to always control your fans. Like, I'm not sure if it's FIFA or UEFA who often punishes clubs if they can't control their fans. They say a failure to control your fans. I think even the FA does it. Obviously, when they say the FA, it means the English FA, but just to clarify. But they sometimes, or oftentimes, punish fans for bad behaviour. But I think that's a bit unfair for the whole club to be punished, because you can't always control your fans. For instance, if Celtic tells its fans not to sing IRA songs or not to cause trouble or whatever it might be, you can't always control all the fans in doing that, and I'm sure the same for any other club. So yeah, I don't think the rest of us fans should be punished for bad behaviour of one or two others, but obviously it's easier said than done. But moving on to point number 28, again, I wonder how football can turn negative situations into positives. Number 29, again, diversity through football. I'd love to see what neurodivergent people can contribute to football, especially Tampa and Celtic, and to a lesser extent, maybe LCFC and Birmingham. Maybe LCFC could work with learning disabled people, given my usual situations. But yeah, I'd love to see Birmingham work with diverse backgrounds and maybe get more funding for the FA, UEFA and FIFA to build more stadiums. And number finally number 30, I say, I know I'm trying to talk about football more generally and giving fans a voice more generally and that kind of thing. But my main priority would be Italian football, and I suppose Celtic, and to a slightly lesser extent, or much lesser extent, LCFC in Birmingham as well. And again, just because they're diverse, I'm going to stop laughing and I'm out and peace and love.